Insurance companies have seen everything. War zones, rocket launches, the teeth of a famous comedian. They will insure almost anything for the right price. Almost. There are cars sitting in private garages right now that Lloyd's of London turned down, that AIG won't touch, that brokers hang up the phone over, not because the owners didn't have the money, but because the actuaries ran the numbers, stared at the screen, and quietly closed the file. Some machines exist outside the boundaries of what risk can be calculated. This is that list. Number 8. Bugatti EB110 SS. Let's start with a question. What does it mean when a Formula One world champion buys a car for the road, not as a collector, not as an investment, but because it's simply the fastest thing available for civilian purchase? That's what Michael Schumacher did with the EB110 SS. He drove it regularly. Bugatti had relaunched in 1991, Italian-owned, backed by an entrepreneur named Romano Artioli, who had one goal. Their engineers took the standard EB110, already producing 553 horsepower from a 3.5-litre quad-turbo V12 with 60 valves, stripped 330 pounds from the chassis, pushed output to 603 horsepower, and gave it a top speed of 221 miles per hour. In 1992, insurance companies didn't argue with the performance figures. What they argued with was everything else. 30 cars existed in the world. 30. Every replacement panel, every mechanical component existed in quantities that made rare sound polite. One accident didn't just write off a car, it wrote off a piece of history with no practical path back. When Bugatti went bankrupt in 1995, the parts situation went from difficult to effectively impossible. The EB110 SS didn't just become expensive to insure, it became something insurers had no category for. A road legal car that behaves like a prototype and costs like a museum exhibit. Schumacher kept his. Make of that what you will. But here's what nobody warned buyers about at the time. The next car on this list had a problem that was far more specific, far more documented, and far more deadly.
Number 7. Porsche Carrera GT. This one has a body count, and the industry knew it before the cars were even delivered. Porsche's engineers knew exactly what they were building. A naturally aspirated V10 lifted directly from a cancelled Le Mans prototype program. A carbon fibre monocoque, a wooden shift knob, not for aesthetics, but because carbon fibre transmits feedback better, and zero electronic driver aids. No stability control, no traction control, nothing between you and 612 horsepower except your own reflexes. The clutch engagement was so aggressive, so unforgiving, that professional racing drivers needed multiple sessions just to operate it competently at legal speeds. The throttle response was described internally as immediate to the point of violence. And then, Porsche decided to sell 1,270 of them to the public. Actuaries have a term for what happened next. They call it a high-consequence vehicle. What they mean is, when something goes wrong, it goes completely wrong, very fast, with no intermediate steps. The Carrera GT generated more than 4 times the fatality rate of comparable supercars in its first decade on the road. That number didn't come from Porsche, it came from the claims data. Lloyd's would technically cover it, but the premiums they quoted weren't meant to be accepted. They were a message, the kind you send when you can't legally say, "Please don't." In 2013, an experienced racing driver behind the wheel of a Carrera GT at speeds estimated between 55 and 85 miles per hour hit a light pole and didn't survive. The investigation asked a question the insurance industry had already quietly answered years before. Was this car forgiving enough for public roads? The data said no. And yet, compared to what came next, the Carrera GT at least had one advantage. It could be fixed. Number 6. Koenigsegg Agera R. Sweden is not a country you associate with excess, clean design, sensible priorities, long winters. Then Christian von Koenigsegg decided to build the fastest production car on Earth from a converted fighter jet factory. The Agera R, 1,140 horsepower on E85 biofuel, highest power-to-weight ratio of any road-legal car ever produced at the time. Top speed electronically limited to 260 miles per hour, not because it couldn't go faster, but because someone decided 260 was probably enough. It was homologated for public roads in Sweden, which means an engineer somewhere signed a piece of paper confirming the Agera R met minimum standards for road use. Minimum standards and appropriate for road use are not the same sentence. Insurance companies in the UK and United States declined outright. Not declined to be competitive, declined to engage with the application. Some specialist brokers in Switzerland and Germany agreed to discuss it, the way a doctor agrees to discuss a diagnosis they'd rather not give. Von Koenigsegg built 18 of them. 18. The owners arranged private coverage through syndicates most people have never heard of, paying premiums most people have never contemplated. The annual cost of owning one of these cars, before you drove a single mile, was a number that made the purchase price feel like a down payment. And that brings us to a car where the opposite problem was true, where the purchase price itself was the absurd number, and where the insurance industry's response was, somehow, even more creative.
Number 5, McLaren F1. Gordon Murray didn't set out to build the fastest car ever made. He set out to build the perfect car. The fastest part was a side effect. A 6.1-liter BMW V12, 618 horsepower, a chassis weighing 2,509 pounds, a central driving position flanked by passenger seats like a fighter cockpit, a gold-lined engine bay. Not for aesthetics, but because gold is the most effective thermal reflector available. Every engineering decision made without compromise, without budget ceiling, without anyone asking whether it was strictly necessary. By 2024, a single example had sold at auction for over $20 million. That number is important. Because insurance isn't calculated on purchase price, it's calculated on replacement cost. And the McLaren F1 has no replacement cost. There is nothing to replace it with. If one burns, the world has 105. If another burns, 104. Each loss is permanent, categorical, irreversible. Lloyd's created a bespoke policy structure for the F1. It wasn't insurance in any conventional sense. It was closer to an annual agreement that, in the event of total loss, certain parties would be financially devastated together. Many owners didn't drive them at all, not because they feared the speed, but because their insurers had explained carefully and at length what the conditions of coverage actually required. Murray built the F1 to be driven. He said publicly that the outcome, a $20 million artifact people are afraid to touch, genuinely disappoints him. The insurance industry built a cage around his masterpiece. And then Lamborghini showed up with something that made even that cage look simple. Number 4, Lamborghini Veneno. Lamborghini named it after a bull known for being particularly dangerous. That was deliberate. 3 cars. Not 300, not 30. 3. Each priced at $4.5 million. Each producing 750 horsepower from a 6.5-liter V12. Each wearing bodywork so aerodynamically aggressive it looked less like a car and more like something that had broken containment from a classified program. Here's what made the Veneno different from everything else on this list. It wasn't just rare. It was rare in a way that removed all negotiating leverage from every party involved. The buyer, the broker, the underwriter, everyone. When you build 3 of something, replacement parts don't exist on a shelf. They don't exist in a warehouse. They exist in a conversation with Lamborghini's factory, which may or may not be willing to have that conversation on a timeline they control at a price they set. Insurers aren't in the business of handing that kind of power to a third party. Standard insurers didn't entertain the application. specialist exotic car brokers looked at the parts situation, the production numbers, and the performance envelope, and quoted figures that weren't designed to be accepted. They were designed to communicate something that politeness prevented saying directly. 2 of the 3 Venenos ended up in a collection in Geneva, not because the owners didn't want to drive them, but because the financial and logistical architecture required to legally operate them on public roads had become more complex than most corporate mergers. The third surfaces occasionally at private events. Under what insurance arrangements? Nobody says. Because sometimes the answer to how did you solve that problem is you found people with enough money to stop asking the question. But money, as it turns out, can only take you so far. The next car proved that the real barrier wasn't wealth, it was physics. Number 3. Bugatti Chiron Supersport 300 Plus August 2019. A closed section of the Volkswagen test track in Air-Alessien. A Chiron modified for high-speed testing, driven by Andy Wallace, a professional with Le Mans victories on his record. Tyres specially engineered and government certified for operation above 270 miles per hour. The road cleared and controlled in ways that made road barely the right word. 304.773 miles per hour. The first production car to breach 300. Bugatti then announced a production run of 30 units, nominally road legal, priced at $3.9 million each. The road legal qualification deserves a closer look. The Chiron Supersport 300 Plus had headlights. It had mirrors. It had a horn. For road use, its top speed was limited to 273 miles per hour because someone, somewhere decided 304 was excessive. You cannot buy a tyre certified for 304 miles per hour. The tyres used for the record run were engineered for a single pass at a single speed on a single day. What you get for $3.9 million is a car that was once driven to 304 miles per hour by a professional racing driver in controlled conditions, now fitted with street tyres and a speed limiter, parked in your garage. Insurance syndicates in London reviewed the application. Most declined on the grounds that the vehicle's known capabilities exceeded any scenario they were prepared to underwrite. One specialist broker in Germany agreed to cover it. Conditions: no track use, no high-speed testing, 1,000 kilometer annual mileage cap, named driver restrictions and premiums that exceeded what most people earn in a decade. For a car its owner would drive fewer than 20 times per year. Bugatti sold all 30, immediately. Which raised an obvious follow-up question. What happens when you build something even faster? The Swedes had an answer. Number 2. Koenigsegg Jesko. Absolut Christian von Koenigsegg does not believe in building cars that are almost something. The Jesko Absolut was designed around one specification, the highest theoretical top speed of any production car ever built. His engineers calculated it at 330 miles per hour. They haven't tested it at 330, because there is no road on Earth where that test could be conducted. And even then, probably not safely. 1,600 horsepower on E85. A 9-speed multi-clutch transmission with a gear change time of 2 milliseconds. Fast enough that the human nervous system cannot perceive the shift. A drag coefficient of 0.278. A weight of 3,131 pounds. 125 units. $3 million each. Everyone sold before the car was fully validated. Insurance companies in the United States declined across the board. The combination of theoretical top speed, limited production, astronomical replacement cost, and the straightforward absence of any commercially available tyre certified for the car's upper performance envelope made conventional underwriting effectively impossible. European specialist brokers found what one of them called solutions, a word doing enormous work in that sentence. Syndicates, agreed value policies, annual reappraisals, mileage restrictions, named drivers. architecture so elaborate, the broker compared it to insuring a private submarine. Von Koenigsegg has said the Jesko Absolut's top speed will likely never be officially validated, because doing it properly would require a road that doesn't exist, a clearance operation that hasn't been organized, and someone willing to sit in the seat. If that insurance policy were ever written, it would be unlike anything that currently exists. But even that pales compared to number one, because at least the Jesko Absolut could, in principle, be repaired. Number 1. Czinger 21. C. Most people have never heard of Czinger. That's not an oversight. That's the point. Kevin Czinger didn't build a supercar company. He built a manufacturing philosophy and attached a car to it. The 21C was designed entirely by artificial intelligence optimization algorithms, then produced using additive manufacturing, 3D printing, in configurations that traditional machining simply cannot replicate. The result was a chassis with structural nodes that no human engineer would have designed, because human engineers are constrained by what they can visualize. The algorithm wasn't. The numbers. 1,250 horsepower hybrid powertrain. 0 to 62 in 1.9 seconds. Top speed, limited to 281 miles per hour. Tandem fighter jet seating, 20 units, $1.7 million each. And now, here's where the insurance problem becomes something entirely different from every other car on this list. For every other car, the problem was performance, or rarity, or replacement cost. Problems that money, creativity, and specialist brokers could eventually navigate around. For the 21st century, the problem was something actuaries had never formally encountered before. There is no established repair methodology for AI-optimized, 3D printed structural components. The nodes and brackets making up the 21C's chassis were designed by an algorithm that doesn't produce blueprints in any format traditional fabrication shops can interpret. If a 21C is damaged, the repair pathway involves rerunning the optimization algorithm, reprinting the components, and reassembling them, a process Czinger estimates at several $100,000 per structural repair. If the damage is extensive, the car may be effectively irreparable. Not because parts don't exist, but because the manufacturing process to create them exists in one location on Earth. Lloyd's reviewed the application, requested additional technical documentation, then more documentation, then a meeting with Czinger's engineering team. The meeting produced what one party described as an unprecedented policy framework. The other party declined to describe it at all. 20 cars in the world, designed by algorithms, repairable only by the company that made them, capable of 281 miles per hour on a public road, faster on a track, faster still with the limiter removed. The 21C isn't uninsurable because it's fast. Fast is a solved problem. The 21C is uninsurable because it represents something the insurance industry has never had a category for. A car designed by a process that hasn't been fully documented, built by machines that don't work like other machines, from materials that don't behave like other materials. The actuarial tables were written for a world where a damaged car could, in principle, be restored. The Czinger 21C introduced a quiet question nobody had prepared for. What if it can't?